Hello everyone. I welcome you to this multi-part lecture series on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, brought to you by Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India in partnership with IGNOU. Today, we'll be covering the topic of sale as a going concern in the liquidation process. A company interacts with the economy in multiple ways. It provides employment to people, which in turn support their families. It provides businesses to their vendors. It also provides tax revenues to the government authorities, and it also provides products to the customers. Hence, a failure of a company in an economy could affect the economy in multiple ways, affect the country in multiple ways. Therefore, it is very important to try to save each and every company. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is a beneficial legislation which tries to put a company on its feet. Therefore, it try to save every company. So it is very important to keep a company as a going concern in the insolvency process. The Bankruptcy Law Reform Committee, which conceptualized the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, it said that from the creditor's point of view, it is very important that a company is kept as a going concern. And a good realization can be obtained if the company is a going concern. And the code also, it emphasizes on keeping the company as a going concern. The long title of the code, it says it is an act to consolidate and amend the law relating to reorganization and resolution of corporate person, partnership firms in a time-bound manner for maximization of value of assets. So the emphasis under the code is to save a company through resolution and maximizing the recovery for the creditors. What is interesting to note from this long title of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is that there is no mention of liquidation. So therefore, the code tries to save each and every company, and only when there is failure on saving the company goes into liquidation. The Honorable Supreme Court, in the matter of Swiss ribbons, also highlighted the fact. It said, what is interesting to note is the preamble or long title of the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code does not mention the word liquidation. Hence, liquidation is a last resort. Only when all the efforts have been made to save the company and still the company could not be saved, then the company moves into liquidation. The Honorable National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, in the matters of Binani Industries, it also highlighted the importance of resolution or saving a company. It said the first order objective of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is resolution. The second objective is maximizing the value of assets. And the third objective is promoting entrepreneurship, availability of credit. And it also emphasized that this order is sacrosanct. Therefore, it is very important to keep a company as a going concern in the CRP. So, since as we discussed that the preamble does not provide for liquidation in the first instance, only as a result of failure of corporate insolvency resolution process, the company moves into liquidation. So, what is interesting to know? Next thing we would want to understand what is the meaning of going concern. The Insolvency and Law Committee, it said the phrase as a going concern implies that corporate debtor would be functional as it would have been prior to initiation of CRP, other than the restriction put by the court. So by going concern, we would mean that a company would continue function as it was continuing before the commencement of the corporate insolvency resolution process. Therefore, the going concern can be defined as that all the assets of the company, all the tangibles or intangible assets, and that resources that are required to keep the company as a going concern, they are kept intact and without assigning individual values to the individual assets of the company. Since in the case of going concern, there would be no dissolution in the liquidation process. So here are the key benefits of keeping a company as a going concern. The first is the value of the company increases, and therefore the recovery to the creditors also increases. It also saves employment of the workmen and employees which were working in the company. It also reduces the requirement of additional finance by maximizing the recovery in the process. It also saves the startup cost because the company that would be acquiring the company under the code would not be required would be saving up the startup cost that is required for starting a new company. Since the company is kept as a going concern, the brand and goodwill value that is attached to the company is kept intact, and the customers base and also the key suppliers that is kept intact when the company is not dissolved and kept as a going concern. Now, the important point to note is if only after all the efforts have been made to save a company during the CRP process, only then the company goes into liquidation. So, if all the efforts have been made during CRP to save a company, why do we need an additional step in liquidation process to save a company? Here are few reasons we would like to think of why there is a need to give one more chance to a company in the liquidation process. A company may fall into liquidation due to various reasons, such as timeline issue. If timeline of 270 or 330 days expires, or the COC could not approve of the resolution plan, or the plan that was approved could not be implemented. In such cases, it may still be possible to save a company during liquidation process. And moreover, because the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is an economic legislation, and because the markets are imperfect, it is quite possible that the market may classify a viable company as an inviable and an inviable company as a viable. So therefore, it may push a viable company into liquidation. Hence, it is important to give one more chance during liquidation process to try to save up the company. So keeping this in mind, the liquidation regulations and the CRP regulations, they provide for sale as a going concern during the liquidation process. Regulation 39C of the CIRP regulation, it provides that while approving liquidation of the corporate debtor or while approving resolution plan, the COC in its last meeting may decide for sale as a going concern during the liquidation process. Regulation 32 of the liquidation regulations, it provides for various modes of selling a company. It provides that a company can be sold on a in a slump sale. The asset can be sold on a standalone basis. The asset can be sold in parcels. The asset can be sold in collectively, and the company itself can be sold as a going concern. Or the businesses of companies, if it comprises of different business units, the businesses can be sold as a going concern. 32 Regulation 32A of liquidation regulation, it provides that where the committee of creditors decided for sale as a going concern in its last meeting, the liquidator should endeavor to complete the liquidation to sell the company as a going concern. So next we move to this concept of going concern in liquidation. As I spoke earlier, that the term going concern has not been defined in the code or in the liquidation or other regulations. So what do we mean by going concern in liquidation? Here some assistance can be sought from various orders of the adjudicating authority. In one of the matters in the adjudicating authority has clarified that in case of sale as a going concern, the corporate debtor will not be dissolved in terms of section 54 of the code. The assets with the attendant claims, limitations, licenses, permits, or business authorizations remains in the company. Only the ownership of the company is acquired by the successful bidder from the liquidator. So therefore, going concern sale in the liquidation would mean that a company continues as it was continuing before commencement of the CERP process, and the company, along with all its assets, including tangible assets, intangible assets, will be transferred to the new owner without dissolution of the corporate debtor. In the Mohan Gems and Jewels Private Limited, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal also clarified that closure of liquidation proceeding can it would be contradictory to hold that this only the liquidation process can be closed only through dissolution and without closure. This would demolish the very spirit and objective of the code. So therefore, it is important to close the liquidation process, if possible, through a going concern sale without resorting to the dissolution of the corporate debtor. So how the going concern sale works in the liquidation process? The going concern sale under liquidation process works as normal liquidation process would work. The only exception is that rather than selling the assets of the corporate debtor in a piecemeal manner, the liquidator will sell the assets of the would sell the company itself to the new owner. So the liquidator would do the normal routine activities that are required under the liquidation process. The liquidator would invite claims, would verify the claims, would prepare the asset memorandum, would prepare the preliminary report and list of stakeholders. In case of going concern sale under liquidation, the liquidator, when publishing auction notice, would auction the company itself along with its reserve price and EMD amount to be acquired by the new buyer on as is various basis. And when the in response to the auction notice, the buyers would submit their bids, and the liquidator would choose the highest bid and would complete the sale process. So once the sale under the liquidation process of the company as a going concern is completed, the liquidator would not be filing the application for dissolution. Rather, it would be filing the application for closure of the liquidation process. So what is required in the section 54 of the code, that the application for dissolution is filed. Rather than this, the liquidator would be filing the application for closure of the business process. So the timeline for the liquidation process is generally 1 year. However, in case of a going concern sale, the liquidator would be getting an additional timeline of 90 days to complete the going concern sale. Therefore, in case a liquidator is trying to sell the company as a going concern, he would be getting 1 year and 90 days to complete the liquidation process. And the liquidator, on completion of the liquidation process, would be filing the application for closure of the business without dissolution of the company under regulation 45 of the liquidation regulation. So this is the present status of the going concern sales under liquidation that has been that had happened till now. As on 31st March 2022, there are 13 going concern sales under the liquidation process. These companies had claims of 13,800 crore rupees. These companies had the liquidation value of 372 crore rupees, and the realized value was 448 crore on sale as a going concern. Therefore, we could see a 20% improvement over the liquidation value if the company was sold as a going concern. So therefore, we have discussed why it was important to brought out the concept of sale as a going concern under the liquidation process. It was to save the company from its corporate death. If the company dies, the stakeholders, the many stakeholders which are depending on their livelihood, they also suffer from economic disruption. The employees or the workmen, they also lose their job. The vendors which were supplying raw materials to the company, they also lose their customer base, and the customers who were getting product from that company, they also are left with one less option for selling their products. Therefore, it is important to try to save the company in the liquidation process if possible. So we have discussed the sale as a going concern under the liquidation process. One more way in which a company can be saved during the liquidation process is through the compromise or arrangement under Section 230 of the Companies Act. Regulation 2B of the liquidation regulation, it provides that where a compromise or arrangement under Section 230 of the Companies Act has been proposed, the same should be completed in the liquidation process. In case of successful compromise or arrangement, the company also survives and there is no dissolution. So there are two ways after the liquidation process by which the company is not dissolved and the company continues as it was continuing before the commencement of the insolvency process. So these 13 companies that have been closed without dissolution, these companies, they include some of the big names. The first name is the Topworth, which we discussed earlier. uh, the admitted the recovery, though when compared to the admitted claims, the recovery is less. But when we compare this number with the normal dissolutions that are happening in the liquidation process, they are much above. As we discussed, the liquidation value is over 20% of the realized value, though in other cases we are seeing the recovery is closed, and in some cases even less than the liquidation value. Therefore, it is important that the company is saved during the liquidation process, if possible, by giving it one more chance for selling the company, by selling the company as a going concern. Next, we'll move to the concept of normal liquidation process. So normal liquidation process, along with how the company is actually sold as a going concern. So as we discussed, the liquidation process uh, under when a liquidator is selling the company as a going concern is generally more or less same to the normal liquidation process. So what would be happening is the liquidator would be inviting bids for selling the company as a going concern. So what it would mean that it would be publishing the expression of interest for selling the company as a going concern. In the expression of interest, the company would be writing down its the USP of the company, what are the major businesses of the company, what is the turnover, and what are the other USPs of the company, on why would anyone would be willing to acquire that company. In response to that expression of interest, the liquidator would be getting some responses on buying the company. The liquidator would then conduct the auction process. The liquidation regulation provides that normally the liquidator would conduct online auction, and in some exceptional cases it can conduct physical auction also, but generally a normal auction is conducted. In response to the auction process, the liquidator will select the highest bidder, and when the liquidator selects the highest bidder, it would then confirm the sale by giving a sale certificate to the highest bidder. However, now as we are seeing that the company survives after the liquidation process in case of a sale as a going concern, the end result should be same to what happens after the corporate insolvency resolution process, because there also the company is being saved, here also company is being saved. The company is not being dissolved in both of the cases. However, there are some issues which are yet to be clarified when the company is being sold as a going concern. The first issue is regarding the concessions and reliefs which are sought by the liquidators when filing the liquidation application. So the company, when it is being sold as a going concern, the liquidator, when filing the application for closure of the business, they also say to the NCLT that there are some reliefs or some concessions which are required by the prospective buyer so as to continue the business as it was continuing before the commencement of the insolvency resolution process. And in second case, the liquidator, in some cases, because the section 32A of the CRP process, that also provides for a clean slate of the liquidation of the corporate debtor. But in one of the matters by the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, the Honorable Appellate Tribunal has held that in case of a going concern sale, only the assets would be transferred. The company would be transferred on as its various basis, and the assets along with liabilities would be transferred. These issues are yet to be clarified, because when we think of normal liquidation process, what we think of is the proceeds that are received from in the liquidation process. These proceeds would be distributed to the stakeholders in terms section 53 of the code, and the company would be dissolved. So similarly, likewise here only, what a normal would be think of is that the recovery that is got from the sale as a going concern, that amount would be given to the creditors in terms of section 53, and the all the rest amount would be written off, like what happens in CRP process, and the company, after the closure of the liquidation process, would continue as it with a clean slate. However, there are few conflicting judgments by various forums on whether the liabilities during the sale as a going concern, they continue after the closure of the process or not, because normal understanding says they should not be continuing. However, there is need for clarity on this aspects. So in summing up, we'll the we understand कि the code provides for sale as a going concern. It provides for resolution, and only in case of resolution the company moves into liquidation. The code does not provide for direct liquidation. Only after the failure of the corporate insolvency process the company goes into liquidation. However, the court also does not prohibit sale as a going concern or liquidation process, because of which the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board has inserted Regulation 39C in the CRP regulation and Regulation 32 and 32A in the liquidation regulations, which provides that the CD can also be sold as a going concern in the liquidation process. The liquidation, the, why this was inserted, so as to give one more chance to save the company. If for some reasons if for one reason or another the company could not be saved doing CRP, one more chance can be given during the liquidation process to save the company. And we have seen that in 13 cases that have been closed till now, there has been 20% recovery over and above the liquidation value when these companies were sold as a going concern. These 13 companies, though the number is still small, however, these 13 companies, they represent the associated externalities that are there on the economies. The workmen, employees, operational creditors, and the government also, they would also be benefiting from the continuing operation of these 13 companies. Therefore, the the sale as a going concern under a liquidation process, it tries to bridge the necessary gap which was there due to which was there, and because of this the company is being saved. Thank you.
Do you wish to be part of a television studio like this, or any other media system, or already part of any media system, want to enhance a new set of skills? Welcome to School of Journalism New Media Studies. Here in the School of Journalism New Media Studies, we are offering program for all set of people to learn and enhance their media skills. The vision of School of Journalism and New Media Studies is to generate a new set of professionals in the area of media and communication studies with understanding about role of media in the national development and global understanding. We offer innovative programs in the field of journalism and mass communication that sets the benchmark of high quality learning and teaching process at the national level. We offer these programs across the country with the help of our regional network as well as study center. Same manner, many of our programs are offered through online mode with a sophisticated learning management system. SOGNMS offers programs from PhD in journalism and mass communication till certificate level. We have masters in journalism and mass communication. The eligibility is bachelor's degree, and we are introducing this program in 3 languages: Hindi, Tamil and English. Students from national and international students can join either through online mode as well as in the distance mode. We have 4 postgraduate diploma programs, specialized areas in the field of development communication, digital media, electronic media and journalism and mass communication program. And all these 4 programs are available in distance mode. 2 programs are available in online mode, development communication and digital media. And we have specialized certificate program in community radio. IGNOU employs various media and communication tools for better teaching and learning process. School of Journalism and New Media Studies utilizes this media system for delivering all our programs. Come and join with us for exploring a new career and enhance your media skills.
Indira Gandhi National Open University is established by an Act of Parliament, and in 2021 IGNOU is accredited by NAC as A++. School of Engineering and Technology is one of the school of studies of Indira Gandhi National University. We have developed many programs for you: MSc in Renewable Energy and Environment, PG Certificate in Industrial Safety, Diploma in Smart City Development and Management, Certificate in Smart City Development and Management, PG Certificate in Inventory Planning and Warehousing System for Engineers, Certificate in Wastewater Treatment Techniques, Certificate in Condition Monitoring. All these programs are available at IGNOU website at School of Engineering Technology web page. You can get the information about the duration, about the fee and about the program coordinator by visiting the home page of School of Engineering and Technology. At School of Engineering Technology, we have faculty members who have earned their PhD degree from reputed institutes like IIT and NITs. The course material which we have developed are assisted by the experts from academia as well as from industry. So, you will find our course material which is in a self-instructional mode. We are providing you the course material in digital form. We are providing you online counseling sessions. Our student support system is very robust, and our motto is to reach at your doorstep. At Indira Gandhi National Open University, we have a placement cell and we have a very strong alumni. So, I invite you to visit the website of Indira Gandhi National Open University and homepage of School of Engineering and Technology to enroll yourself and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, viewers. On behalf of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, I welcome you to this session on Introduction to Frontier Areas as a part of the series of telelearning sessions on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So, as I understand, as a part of this series till now, you would have understood the genesis, the implementation, and the evolution of the code, the insolvency and bankruptcy code till now. And today in this session on introduction to frontier areas, we'll be discussing the upcoming major developments which the insolvency and bankruptcy regime in the country is expected to witness in the next few years. So the concepts which we'll be discussing today will be taking shape and would be seeing the light of the day in the coming years. So what today we'll be discussing the conceptual part and the developments with respect to these issues till now. The actual version or the manner in which they'll see the day of light might be different or might be evolved in line with the emerging realities of the market and the need of the Indian economy. So we have divided this session on frontier areas into three major parts. The first is individual insolvency, the second is cross-border insolvency, and the third would be group insolvency. So we'll start first with the individual insolvency and bankruptcy. So as you all might be aware that insolvency and bankruptcy code is a comprehensive code. It deals with the insolvency resolution of all kind of persons, be it corporates, LLPs, partnership firms, individuals, or other entities. That's why it's a comprehensive code. So at present, initially to begin with, the insolvency resolution and liquidation of corporates were started when the IBC was initially introduced, and individual insolvency implementation is thus one of the frontier areas. The part 3 of the insolvency and bankruptcy code deals with the provisions of individual insolvency. As you can see on the slides, the framework of part 3 of the code is divided into 7 chapters. That is preliminary, the fresh start process, insolvency resolution process. This is the counterpart of the corporate insolvency resolution process which we have for corporate debtors. Then bankruptcy process and administration and distribution of estate of the bankrupt. This is the counterpart of the liquidation process which we have for the corporate entities. And then the last 2 chapter deals with the adjudicating authority and the offences and penalties with respect to the individual insolvency framework. So before discussing in detail that how the individual insolvency will be dealt under the code, I would like to take you all to the present laws of the personal insolvency. So the insolvency of individuals is not a new phenomena. It has been there since ancient times, and traditionally there have been 2 kind of remedies available against the defaults by individuals. So first is against the person of the debtor, the individual himself, that has been there since ancient times, and against the property of the debtor, that has been in vogue since 19th century. The present laws which dealt with the individual insolvency before IBC are the Presidency Towns Insolvency Act 1909 and the Provincial Township Insolvency Act of 1920. So once the part 3 of the insolvency and bankruptcy code is implemented in full, is notified in full, these laws will be repealed. But at present, till that section of insolvency and bankruptcy code is notified, these laws are applicable. So as you can see from the date itself that these are the laws dating back to 1909, 1920, and it is difficult for these laws to cater to the demands of the modern economic framework. So IBC provides for a modern regime for insolvency resolution of individuals. As you can see in the slides, how the individual insolvency framework of the IBC is a development with over the previous ones. The IBC provides for an objective trigger for insolvency instead of relying on the idea of the act of insolvency as provided in these laws. Further, IBC also has a provision for moratorium. It's kind of breathing space for the debtors and creditors. So as we have discussed in the case of corporate insolvency resolution also, a moratorium is implemented which ensures that the ongoing legal proceedings are stopped for a while so that the debtors and creditors can find out a way to resolve the insolvency situation of the individual. So this is a very important concept which is required to ensure successful resolution of insolvencies, and IBC provides it. Then IBC provides for the use of qualified resolution professionals to assist the stakeholders. It also provides for automatic discharge, and there's also a process by the name Fresh Start process, which we'll be discussing later, which enables an individual to come out of the debt trap and provides him an opportunity to start afresh in life, overcoming the insolvency situation. So this is what was the present framework of the insolvency laws for individuals in the country, and how IBC provides a reformed approach to deal with this. So basically part 3, if we talk about the applicability of part 3, so from the point of view of implementation of individual insolvency, the individuals have been subdivided into 3 further categories. The first is personal guarantors to corporate debtors. So these are the people who have given guarantees with respect to loans taken by the corporate debtors. So for example, there is a company. The company has taken a loan from a bank, and the director is given a guarantee that in case company does not pay the loan, I will pay the loan. So that individual will be called personal guarantor to corporate debtor. Then the second category is partnership firms and proprietorship firms. And the third category is other remaining individuals. The default criteria in part 3 of the code is 1000 rupees, but the central government has been empowered to increase this amount up to 1 lakh rupees. And then basically there are 3 processes under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code under part 3. The first is Fresh Start process. It provides for writing off of the qualified debts of a specified amount. This is basically aimed at giving an opportunity to the individual to come out of the debt trap and start the economic journey afresh again, which thus enables promotion of entrepreneurship in the country. Second process is the individual insolvency resolution process. This is the counterpart of the corporate insolvency resolution process, which we have for corporates. A negotiated repayment plan is worked out between the debtors and the creditors. And in case the insolvency resolution process fails, then there is a process called bankruptcy process, where the assets of the debtor are realized and they are distributed to the creditors as per the legal framework. So as per the report of the working group on individual insolvency and bankruptcy, the implementation of individual insolvency has been decided to implement it in phases. So the first phase will be the insolvency and bankruptcy of personal guarantors to corporate debtors. Then phase 2 would be the insolvency and bankruptcy of partnership firms and proprietorship firms. And phase 3 would be the implementation of insolvency and bankruptcy for the remaining other individuals. So there will be a separate set of rules and regulations for the 3 classes. The phased implementation will be done, and at present the implementation has been started with respect to the first category. So this is the status of the enforcement of the present framework. The insolvency and bankruptcy resolution process for the personal guarantors to corporate debtors has been implemented with effect from 1st December 2019. With the notification of this part, the corresponding rules and regulations have also been notified, which provides the finer details which were to be prescribed and specified as per the scheme of the code. So from 1st December 2019, the implementation of individual insolvency with respect to the personal guarantors and corporate debtors has been started. So the code provides for 2 different set of adjudicating authorities for corporates and non-corporates. So as you can see on the slides, the adjudicating authority for individuals can be either NCLT, the National Company Law Tribunals, or the Debt Recovery Tribunals. So as we have seen that the provisions with respect to personal guarantors have been implemented. So just imagine that there is a company which has taken the loan and it has defaulted. And there was a director who has given the guarantee that in case company does not pay, I will pay the loan. Now, as a banker, the bank start the proceedings against the company to recover the money, as well as they started proceedings against the guarantor to recover the money. So, in order to ensure proper coordination between the two proceedings and to ensure a comprehensive resolution taking into account all the factors, the process of individual insolvency of that guarantor will be run in the NCLT only. So, in the cases where the CIRP or liquidation of the company is pending, the adjudicating authority for the individuals would be the NCLT, and in all other cases, that is where the CIRP or the liquidation is not pending, or in case of firms or in case of other individuals, the adjudicating authority will be the DRT. In case the adjudicating authority is NCLT, the appeal would lie with NCLAT, and in case the adjudicating authority is DRT, the appeal would lie before the Debt Recovery Appellate Tribunal. So, when this part of the code was notified in 2019, multiple petitions were filed in various high courts challenging the notification of insolvency, resolution, and bankruptcy of personal guarantors to corporate debtors. But however, the Honorable Supreme Court of India, in the matter of Lalit Kumar Jain versus Union of India and others, by an order dated 21st May 2021, has held that the notification dated 15th November 2019 regarding the insolvency of personal guarantors is legal and valid, and the approval of resolution plan relating to the companies does not operate as a discharge of the liabilities of the personal guarantors also. Thus, the provisions of the code have withstood the constitutional muster. The Honorable Apex Court of the country has upheld it, and post that order, a rise in the number of cases with respect to individual insolvency has been witnessed. So, in this slide, you can see a brief overview of how the insolvency resolution process in case of individual works. We'll not be going into details in this process, but as you all have already discussed the corporate insolvency resolution process, it is very similar to this. Here also, a resolution professional is appointed. There is a provision of moratorium also. There is an additional provision of interim moratorium also, and a negotiated repayment plan is prepared, and if it is approved by both in the meeting of creditors as well as by the adjudicating authority, that repayment plan becomes binding on both the debtor and creditor, and it is implemented. And in case the parties could not reach to agreed repayment plan, then both the debtor and the creditors are entitled to file for the bankruptcy process. So, unlike corporates where the failure of the corporate insolvency resolution process automatically leads to liquidation, there is no automatic start of bankruptcy process here. But at the end of it, if there is no repayment plan being implemented, the debtors and creditors both have the right to initiate or apply for the initiation of bankruptcy process. Then on this slide, you can see the overview of the bankruptcy process. The bankruptcy process is similar to the liquidation process for the corporates. Here, the objective is to realize the assets of the individual and to distribute it among the creditors in line with the applicable legal framework. Unlike corporates, in case of individual insolvency in the bankruptcy process, the factors like ensuring the availability of limited resources with the individual so as to ensure his sustenance are taken into account, and not all the assets are realized. So there is a provision of excluded assets and excluded liabilities which is taken care of in implementation of bankruptcy process. So as a frontier area, individual insolvency and bankruptcy is evolving. As of now, the provisions of personal guarantors and corporate debtors are in vogue, and based on the learning of the implementation of this phase, the remaining phases, that is the implementation for other individuals, partnership firms and proprietorship firms, will be implemented in the coming times, taking into account the emerging market realities and the requirements of the economy at an appropriate time and at an appropriate pace by the government. So this is all about the overview of the individual insolvency. Now we'll be taking up the second concept of the day, that is the cross-border insolvency. So just before beginning with the cross-border insolvency, I'd like to give you a brief snapshot of the developments in the code. So, as you all are aware, the corporate insolvency resolution process and liquidation process was started in 2016. In 2017, a notification for section 234 and 235, which provides for bilateral agreements with foreign creditors and issues of letter of request, was notified. We'll discuss what is this mechanism in the coming slides. Then in 2019, as we discussed, the provisions for individual insolvency for personal guarantors and corporate debtor of corporate debtors was notified. And in 2021, the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process for MSME corporate debtors was notified. Until now, 6 amendments have taken place to align the code with the emerging market realities. So, what is cross-border insolvency? So, as you all might be aware that today the companies operate in a globalized manner. The economies of the world, of all the countries of the world, are highly integrated. Businesses have interest stretching beyond their home jurisdictions. There are Indian companies which are having operations in other countries. There are foreign companies which are having operations in India. We receive a large amount of foreign direct investments from other jurisdictions. Similarly, our companies also invest in other jurisdictions. There are debt transactions also between jurisdictions. So, as the businesses and the economies of different countries of the world are integrated, in case a company who is having operations in multiple jurisdictions goes into insolvency, we need a framework which can cater to the requirements of the individual the insolvency resolution of that company, where the proceedings have to be run in multiple jurisdictions simultaneously. So at present, the code has a framework for the cross-border insolvency. It is provided in section 234 and section 235 of the code. Section 234 of the code provides that bilateral agreements can be entered by the central government with the other countries. And section 235 provides that with respect to the countries where such bilateral agreements have been made, the adjudicating authority can issue a letter of request to such countries. So, but till date, there has been no bilateral agreements being signed under this enabling provision. Apart from section 234 and 235 of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, there is a provision in Civil Procedure Code also, section 13 and section 44A. It allows the enforcement of conclusive foreign judgments in reciprocating jurisdictions. So, this is a snapshot of these two arrangements that section 234 to 235 provides for the bilateral agreements. For example, India can sign an agreement with another country that how they'll coordinate with respect to the insolvency proceedings. And basis that agreement, the adjudicating authority of India can send a letter of request to that country in case any coordination is required with respect to insolvency resolution. But just imagine that there are hundreds of countries in the world and it becomes difficult to sign individual agreements with each countries and to ensure uniformity in these agreements. And for example, a company is having operations in say 20 countries and it goes into insolvency, and if we are having 20 different agreements with these 20 countries, so it becomes difficult to ensure a uniform approach towards the insolvency resolution with respect to all the jurisdictions. Similarly, the provisions under the Civil Procedure Code, it is available only for the reciprocating jurisdictions. It's not available with respect to all the countries of the world. Further, it only covers foreign judgments. So, the word foreign judgment, the term foreign judgments, does not include the administrative orders or the interim orders, and also there is lack of clarity with respect to recognition of proceedings. Further, the treatment of the Indian proceedings and judgments abroad also depends upon the laws of that particular country. So, this is the existing options, but there are various issues with respect to these options as we discussed. Issues with bilateral agreements regarding time-consuming negotiations, lack of uniformity, and procedural complexities in implementation of the bilateral agreements at the multilateral level. Then there are issues with the mechanism of civil procedure code, as we discussed, that it applies only for the reciprocating countries and may not include administrative orders or interim orders. And the ultimate implementation of these provisions depends upon also the laws of that particular country. So the various committees of Government of India have recommended for adoption of cross-border insolvency framework. The Bankruptcy Law Reforms Committee, basis which the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code was enacted, also mentioned that the next frontier lies in addressing the cross-border issues. Then the Joint Parliamentary Committee on IBC in 2016 also mentioned that the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code should have provisions with respect to cross-border insolvency. Then Insolvency Law Committee, in its report in March 2018, recommended that to attempt a comprehensive framework for the purpose based on the UNCITRAL model law, that is United Nations Committee on International Trade Laws model law. So ILC basically recommended that India should adopt a framework for cross-border insolvency based on the model law provided by the UN agency, and it should be applied initially only for the corporate insolvency and not for all the category of persons. Then report of the Standing Committee on Finance in 2020-21 also recommended regarding the cross-border insolvency, and they said that the framework would go a long way in ensuring coordination and communications between jurisdictions to successfully address the resolution of cross-border insolvency cases. So from BLRC to parliamentary committees to Insolvency Law Committee, everybody has recommended the need for a cross-border framework. Similarly, the international organizations like IMF, World Bank, in their reports have suggested having a model law on adoption of model law for the cross-border framework. The FSDC also, in its group of members meeting, recommended that the provisions of cross-border insolvency framework should be expedited. So, as you can see on this slide, these are the salient features of the model law, which is being recommended for adoption as the cross-border insolvency framework under the IBC. So what does this model law provides? So basically it provides for four major things. First, it provides for access of representatives, means the domestic insolvency professionals can participate in foreign countries proceedings and the foreign representatives can participate in the domestic proceedings. Second thing is the recognition of foreign proceedings. For example, a company whose main business is in India and is having minor operations in say 15 other jurisdictions, if it goes into insolvency and if all these countries have adopted model law, then the main proceedings of the insolvency which will be conducted in India will be recognized by all the other jurisdictions. So similarly, if the main proceedings are happening in some other jurisdiction, the Indian authorities will recognize these proceedings. So there will be a mutual recognition of foreign proceedings. And then there will be cooperation and coordination between the professionals and the authorities of different jurisdictions so as to ensure a comprehensive resolution of insolvency of a company which is having operations in multiple jurisdictions. Further, it also provides an exception for public policy, which gives the much needed flexibility to the government to accommodate the domestic needs. 49 states have adopted the model legislation based on the model law till now. So, as we discussed, there is the legal justifications, the economic imperatives that behind adoption of the cross-border insolvency framework. It will promote investments, labor flows, trade in goods and services. Ultimately, it will also be helpful for ease of doing business. So, till now, as we saw, the Insolvency Law Committee has recommended adoption of UNCITRAL model law. They have also provided a draft and they have recommended it should be implemented only for corporate insolvency. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs has also constituted a committee under the chairmanship of Dr. K.P. Krishnan and to draft a framework for the cross-border insolvency framework. and they have submitted the report, and it is presently under the consideration of the government. Then the last topic of the day is group insolvency. As you all might be aware that at present the companies operate in group structures. Companies have holding companies, subsidiary companies, associate companies are there, and the operations of the businesses of these companies are intertwined or layered in terms of finances, in terms of operations, in terms of delivery of services. So if you want to resolve if the group of companies goes into insolvency, to resolve the insolvency of that company, it is required to look into the operations of the group as a whole. So at present, the IBC does not have any express provision for the group insolvency and for coordination. Existing options are in the Companies Act. It provides for the provisions of holding company, subsidiary company, associate company, based on the criteria of control, significant influence, etc. And there are inherent powers with NCLTs. So under Rule 11 of the NCLT rules, they have the power to pass orders to meet the ends of justice and to prevent the abuse of process. And using those powers, the NCLTs have taken care of the group insolvency provisions requirements in some cases like Videocon and Adel Infra. So this is on this slide you can see the details of the Videocon case. I'll directly come to the conclusion of the case that with respect to group insolvency, that the NCLT provided for the consolidation of the process of the 13 companies of the Videocon group so as to provide a comprehensive insolvency resolution of these cases, because the group was having common control, common directors were there, common assets were there, common liabilities were there, and there was intertwined accounts were there, and the operations were also interlinked. So NCLT realized that to resolve this case, we need to combine all these companies, we need to see all these companies together, then only a meaningful resolution can be achieved. So a common IP was appointed, a common information memorandum was prepared, and the case was taken forward. Similarly, in case of Adel Infra, the procedural coordination was ordered so as to ensure the coordination among the proceedings of different group companies of this group. So in case of Videocon, a substantive consolidation was considered where all the companies, all the assets and liabilities were considered in toto. And in case of Adel Infra, a procedural coordination was considered. So at present, with respect to group insolvency, a UK-SINA committee was constituted. They have given their report in 2019, and they have said that group insolvency should be implemented in a phased manner. In the first phase, only procedural coordination, that too with respect to only domestic companies, should be attempted. In the second phase, substantive consolidation means not only the procedural coordination but also all the assets and liabilities should be considered together, and not only with domestic companies but with respect to foreign cross-border companies also it should be implemented. But apart from this, they also suggested extensive capacity building required for this. So it is also being considered by the government and will be implemented according to the requirements of the economy at the appropriate time by the government. So this is all about the frontier areas of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code: the individual insolvency, the cross-border insolvency, and the group insolvency. Thank you.
Hello learners, welcome to this session. In this session, we will be talking about population growth and sustainable development. This program is for the students of us, that is Masters in Sustainability Science program. So learners, let us understand first of all, you must be aware of this term population. But what I would like to draw your attention towards is population is a dynamic concept. Means population, we generally refer the word population as the number of inhabitants which are residing at any particular place, number of individuals. So that is population. But why do we say that it is a dynamic concept? Because it is not just the numbers or the individuals, but this keeps on changing. Population per se, depending upon the various factors related to population, including the fertility, including the death rate, the migration patterns, and there are several other concepts which are related to the population. And these things keep on changing. They have an effect on various other parameters for sustainable development. Learners, I would like to draw your attention towards two most important attributes related to the population. First is compositional attributes. For example, when we look at the population of any region, of any country, we can know about the composition of the population. By compositional attributes, we mean the class, the caste, gender, age, religion, socio-economic status. So what do I mean to say is that these attributes of the population tell us about what type of the socio-economic condition of the people who are there at any place. So they give the answer to the question that who are the people, who are the individuals, and on the basis of these attributes, many a times the outcome of the sustainable development plans, policies, they have a return or they have a consequence because of these compositional attributes. But along with the compositional attributes, the contextual attributes are also very significant while determining the strategies for sustainable development. The contextual attributes explain the place, the physical and social characteristics of the population. Physical characteristics, if I say, that means that how is the connectivity? What is the geographical location of that place where the population is residing? What are the transportation facilities? What are the infrastructure facilities? And the social characteristics or the social attribute of the contextual explains educational level, what is the livelihood, what is the status of the women education, what is the status of the rural urban scenarios at that place. So that education, health, access to the various health facilities, so that explains the contextual attributes of the population. Now we come to sustainable development. Rather than just having a count of the individuals of any place, it explains, when you look at the population of any region, it gives you an indication about the sex ratio, about the rural urban migrations taking place, about the education of the women, education of the children, and the literacy levels, and so on and so forth. Sustainable development has been defined. The most popular definition of sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. When you carefully look at this definition of sustainable development, you will have a lot of question marks. You will have a lot of things which you need to ponder upon. For example, development that meets the needs of the present. So we have to know that what are the needs of the present. So food, water, shelter, clothing, they are the basic needs of the population. But it also says that meeting the needs of the future generation. So we have to see that what will be the needs of the future generation, maybe after 25 years or what after after 50 years. So that explains, that gives us an indication that like the population, the needs are also changing with time, with place and with scale. And another important term which is there in this definition is ability, means the skills. The way we are meeting our needs at present is not the same that way we were meeting our needs in the past. And in the future we have lot of technological innovations, we have lot of interventions. So in a whole, lot of things have been covered up in this definition, and it also states there will be a structural societal development which is quite possible, which is quite happening, and all this is an endeavor to meet the different goals which have been proposed by sustainable development goals. So the ambitious sustainable development goals, they are also known as the global goals or the universal goals. They are proposed by UN to be achieved by 2030 by all the countries, by the member states. There are 17 goals and there are 169 targets. Learners, you must know about these goals, that why they are known as global goals and the universal goals means they are common to all the nations of the world. But what we have to understand is that these goals do not work in isolation. They are not independent goals. They are rather interdependent. Achievement of one goal is not possible without looking into the targets and indicators of another goal. For example, let us take the example of climate change. SDG 13 is about fighting climate change. We cannot think of meeting this goal without having a look at the economic development, or SDG 9, which is about innovations or taking care of the sustainable cities, or SDG 12, that is about responsible production and consumption. So they are common, and we think of achieving, and we have made the objective of achievement of these goals by 2030. But in this session, what we are particularly emphasizing is that how population growth is related to sustainable development. So how increase in population and the various factors related to population, including the population distribution, dispersion of the population, skewed child sex ratios, all these are the important, we can say that important dimensions of population at any given place. What we are trying to understand is that how these factors are related to achieving the objectives of sustainable development goals. Another important thing which I would like to tell you is that it has been stated time and again that all the policies that address sustainable development or are meant to achieve the sustainable development goals will fail unless and until we do not take into consideration the dynamics of the population, which is very important. Because another important thing, these are just the 17 goals. You can just look at the screen, and here it is more clear that what the goals are all about. So goal 1 is no poverty, goal 2 is zero hunger, likewise goal 3 is good health and human well-being. Goal 4 is about quality education, and you can just read through the screen that different goals. Now what is important in this slide is that why there is no specific goal on population stabilization or population control. Why there is no specific goal on population, and it is clearly stating that without taking into consideration the population, it is not possible to achieve SDGs. But learners, you must understand, if you look carefully at all these SDGs, you will find that the issues of population growth and population concerns, other concerns of the population, are ingrained in all of the 17 goals if you look at carefully. Whether it is zero hunger, whether it is no poverty, whether it comes to our health and well-being, or whether it is about reducing the inequalities, you will find that yes, population concerns are very much important and they are reflected in each of the 17 goals that is proposed by UN. So let us see how these 17 goals are related to population. These are 5 P's which you must understand, and you must remember that humans are at the center of the sustainable development. This has been very clearly stated and very clearly understood that all the development must be for the benefit of the people. So there are 5 P's which are very important. First is planet, that means protecting our planet's natural resources: air, water, soil, land, forest, hills, minerals, and so on. Next is people, that is we have to end hunger, poverty, good life to the people, educational opportunities to the people, giving them good medical care and all that. Then prosperity, of course, economic progress is not denied by sustainable development goals. Improving the standard of living of the people, particularly in the developing countries, is very important to prosper and for achievement of all these, and to see that we are able to take care of all the other P's. Partnership is very important. Partnership, that is implementing the agenda through a solid global partnership. And another thing which I would like to emphasize here is that the tagline of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is leaving no one behind. So that means reaching to the least accessible person, that we devise the plans for sustainable development or for any of the SDGs, take into consideration the everybody, every individual, every community and every region of the world. Now let us look at the different SDGs and their correlation with population. SDG 1 is about no poverty. Now learners, we very well understand that poverty and population growth, they are a kind of a vicious circle. Large family size means and ultimately contributes towards poverty. So unless and until we control the fertility rates, unless and until we are able to bring down the birth rate, we cannot think of achieving, or we cannot think of getting a pollution free environment, or we cannot think of reducing the poverty, all forms of poverty. So generally, large family size and poverty often go hand in hand, and therefore it is said that ensuring everyone is empowered to choose family planning, small families, is key to eradicating poverty. So making the choices available to people, seeing that we are able to provide reproductive care, good care to all the families, then only we can think of fighting poverty. So what has been emphasized is that without taking care of the needs of the women, without taking stringent measures for ensuring good and establishing good population policies, it is not possible to say that we can address poverty. So that is most important. So according to World Resource Institute, it has been stated that calorie requirement of population of 10 billion are 56% higher than the current total crop production. So this is about SDG 2, that is zero hunger. That means if we have to feed the growing population, already you know that because of increase in population, there is a lot of pressure on our agricultural lands. The current rate of deforestation is mainly because of the needs of the ever-growing population. So we cannot think of achieving a sustainable farming system unless and until we are able to bring down our population. So every person will be well fed with nutritious diet only when we have controlled the population, because in the current scenarios, as it has been projected that we will be having more demand of food by 2050, there will be 50% more demand of food crops and agriculture related means agriculture related demands will be more in the years to come. This is all because of increase in population, so that is very important to cut down on the population rate. Then if you think about the human health and well-being, just look at the state of affairs of the condition of the women. If you see the data for the maternal mortality rates or infant mortality, you can very well know that it is very important to provide good medical facilities to the women, because worldwide there are a large number of unwanted pregnancies, non-availability of the contraceptives, and so many other health related issues faced by the women. And in view of this, if we have the large population size, if we have the skewed ratios, it is not possible, because all the efforts towards providing good health and well-being to the population will fail unless and until we are investing in the condition of the women particularly. So, investing in healthcare is very important for women, for children, for elderly. Then only we can see that we are able to provide and we can have good healthy conditions and good health and well-being. SDG 3 can be met only when we look into the condition. So, this is one of the aspect of the population, because we have said it is the contextual attribute of the population that also must be kept in mind while we think about meeting SDG 3, that is good health and well-being. Similarly, just think about education, the quality education. Greater investment in quality education is a key to alleviating poverty and ending population growth. So, when women are educated, and we know that an educated woman is in a better position to take care of her decisions, to take care of her body, and when we invest in good quality education to women, to children, to adolescent, then we can think of producing a workforce which is educated, which is skilled, which is aware, and which is more informed and responsible. So, in one way or the other, we can say that meeting SDG 4 also needs investment and proper policies for population control, population stabilization. Likewise, gender equality, it is the core, because we have seen the instances of how gender inequality leads to violence, leads to sex related crimes, leads to poor women participation in labor force, leads to poor quality life, and also in a way it affects the generations. So it is very important to end gender based violence, and also to stop child marriages, and maternal deaths can be prevented, and unmet family planning needs can help to stabilize the population. So this is it is the both the things are related to each other, because unless and until we can see how women are important and the other decision holders. So defy that we want to have a gender equality across the nations, in all the communities. It is not possible unless and until we take care of all the population related issues. We have population related issues like teenage pregnancies, it is very common, poor health of the women, anemic children. These are very common issues, and after a generations, when the mother is not well, naturally the coming generation suffers, and many women they drop out of the school. They are not able to complete their schooling because of these factors, because whether we think of poverty, hunger, or health or education, these all issues are linked to each other. And particularly in the COVID-19 times, we have seen that how population related factors have forced women and the girls to drop out from their workplaces and schools, and they continue to bear the brunt of all these inequalities which are existing in the societies. Similarly, clean water and sanitation is SDG 6, and which says that as the numbers grow, as the human population expands, so does the needs, the demands and that has a repercussion on our underground water reserves and surface waters. There is extensive extraction of the groundwater, pollution taking place, so we cannot think of it is very difficult to ensure clean water and sanitation facilities to our population. So this has an impact because we know that billions of people are devoid of clean water to drink. They do not have sanitation facilities and they are living in abysmally unhygienic conditions. So, this is also because it has been mentioned that a staggering 2.2 billion people around the world do not have access to safe drinking water. So this also is something which goes against our ambitious SDG goals that we have set. Likewise, affordable and clean energy. If you look at the energy consumption in the developed and the developing countries, you will find that yes, US consumes more than the energy, or the it consumes more than, as there are 5 earths, that much of the consumption is done by the developed countries. And in the developing countries and rural areas and the villages, we find that people are still using the dirty fuels. Global energy demand is going to rise by 50% as a result of various commercial and the industrial activities going on. And in the wake up of the growing population and increasing diversities, it is difficult. It will be very difficult to ensure that energy supplies are guaranteed and clean fuels are being used. Similarly, if you look at this SDG, it is about decent work and economic growth, which states that a high number of the people are dependents and they work and in decent working conditions. The women, the children, they are working, and in high income nations, the pursuit of economic growth is in direct conflict with other SDGs, if you look at it, because it just takes away all the benefits which have been are meant to be achieved by other sustainable developments, taking care of the natural resources, or whether it is about providing good working conditions to the populations. Likewise, as I said, the larger the population, the harder it is to provide access to modern infrastructure, and that we are seeing in urban areas, in our metropolitan cities, because of the pressure of the population. The infrastructure is not in a position to support the growing demand. So there more exploitation of the nature, more degradation of the environment and the resources happens because there are more people on the land to take away these things. Likewise, if we talk about, I was mentioning about SDG 10, that is reducing inequalities across gender, inequalities across nations, communities, they are still existing, and they are quite visible between the developed and the developing countries. As I said, the ecological footprint, the carbon footprint, the material footprint of the developed countries is far larger, wider than in the developing countries. So this is also attributed because of the high population growth. Even though it is, as I said, it is not just about the numbers, but the way people consume, it is also very important. And we were referring to urbanization and urban growth. It is predicted that by 2050, more than 68% of the population will be living in the urban areas because of better opportunities here. So rapid urban population growth can outstrip the pace at which infrastructures such as clean water, sanitation, health, education, and better conditions can be provided. So it sometimes goes against. Many times it becomes difficult to meet. Change is exaggerated by increasing population, by the affluence of the people, by both the compositional and the contextual attributes of the population that we are having. Similarly, the other SDGs like below water, life on land, these are also affected, and for all this we need to have a partnership between different SDGs. So that was all about the population growth and sustainable development. Thank you so much.
Are you interested in television journalism or radio journalism or online journalism? Or do you want to learn with the flexibility of open learning? Or if you are a working professional wants to enhance your knowledge and skill with certification in the field of electronic media, then School of Journalism and New Media Study IGNOU offers PG Diploma in Electronic Media for you. This program includes audio and audio-visual program production for radio, television and online platforms. Here are some important details about the program. We have total 8 courses of 32 credits, 6 theory courses, 1 practical and 1 project. Eligibility: bachelor's degree in any subject. Minimum duration 1 year, maximum 3 years. Medium in television, radio or online media. Please come and join IGNOU's PG Diploma in Electronic Media.
We welcome you to join the bouquet of programs offered by the School of Humanities, the Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. The Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi is a mega university today. It was created by an Act of Parliament in 1985. It is the world's largest university with an enrollment of about 3.5 million current students and 3.2 million alumni. IGNOU has also been accorded the highest grade of academic excellence, A++, by the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, or the NAC. Now, during your time at IGNOU as a learner, we will help you complete your program of study with world-class printed materials, audio and video programs. We have more than 35,000 academic counselors who will guide you till you complete your program of study. We also provide live interaction with your teachers at the headquarters via teleconferencing mode and live interactive radio counseling besides this, supported by regular TV and radio broadcasts. The School of Humanities was created in 1988, and we welcome you warmly to join any of our programs of study. IGNOU degrees, diplomas and certificates are recognized not only in the country but are also very well received across the globe. We look forward to your journey with us, and we welcome you once again. The School of Humanities of the Indira Gandhi National Open University offers more than 26 ODL programs, which is open and distance learning programs, and now more than 10 online programs. A very interesting feature that we have, a very interesting program that we have on offer right now is the BA English Honours. Now, in this particular program, what we've done is we've taken a large number of courses from English, which means is English as a discipline. And then we have also put in other interdisciplinary and skill-based elective courses. So all of them combine to give you the BA English Honours, which gives students the exposure to subjects which is related to English literature
जिसके विकास के लिए, जिसकी प्रगति के लिए और जिसकी पहचान के लिए आज हम चारों तरफ एक अनुगूंज देखते हैं। उस अनुगूंज में एक स्वर सुनाई देता है कि आज की जो नारी है वह किस स्थिति पर खड़ी है। आज का जो भारतीय समाज है उसमें जब हम भारतीय चिंतन की बात करते हैं, चिंतन किसे कहते हैं, अगर हम किसी भी विषय के ऊपर जब चिंता व्यक्त करते हैं तो क्या वह चिंतन होता है? या फिर जब कोई स्थितियां जब ऐसी बनती हैं समाज में कि हमें एक ऐसे मुद्दे की आवश्यकता पड़ती है कि हमें उसके ऊपर चिंतन करना चाहिए, किसी भी विषय का ज्ञान, किसी भी विषय के ऊपर अपनी समझ, और जब उस समझ को हम विस्तृत रूप देते हैं तो वह कहलाता है चिंतन। तो आज सशक्तिकरण, नारी सशक्तिकरण की जब बात आती है, यानी कि कौन सी ताकत जो है वह आज नारी में आ गई है। अगर हम संपूर्ण साहित्य का अगर हम वर्णन करते हैं और संपूर्ण साहित्य को अगर हम देखते हैं तो हमें बहुत सी चीज़ें दिखाई देती हैं। उन्हीं चीज़ों में से आज हम जिस मुद्दे पर हम बात करने वाले हैं वह है भारतीय। क्या हमारा जो भारतीय समाज है उसमें जो है नारी सशक्तिकरण या नारी का जो व्यक्तित्व है, जो नारी का चित्रण है, वह पाश्चात्य से प्रभावित है? अगर पाश्चात्य से प्रभावित है तो कितना उसके ऊपर पाश्चात्य का प्रभाव है? ऐसे ही मुद्दों को लेकर आज मैं आपके समक्ष उपस्थित हुई हूँ। मैं साहित्य को लेकर अपना अवलोकन आपके सामने प्रस्तुत करूँगी, जिसमें ऐतिहासिक चीज़ें भी होंगी। अगर हम नारी की बात करते हैं तो उसमें जो है मूल रूप से अगर हम देखते हैं कि आदिकाल, मध्यकाल, रीतिकाल, अगर हम सभी कालों की जब हम चर्चा करते हैं और उसके बाद जब हम जो अक्स हम देखते हैं उसमें एक चित्र सा हमारे सामने प्रस्तुत हो जाता है कि आदर्श नारी कैसी होती है, जिसके सर पर पल्लू होता है, जो पूरी तरह से अपने जिस जो है शरीर को पूरी तरह से ढके रहती है, और एक अच्छी माँ होती है वो, और अच्छे से अच्छा उसको खाना बनाने में माहिर होती है, पाक कला में माहिर होती है, या फिर जो है पूरे परिवार का जिम्मा उसके ऊपर होता है। कौन सी नारी जो है वो आदर्श कही जाए, किस तरीके की जो है प्रवृत्ति को हम जो है एक नारी के लिए श्रेष्ठ प्रवृत्ति मानते हैं। देखा जाए तो जो है नारी वास्तव में है ना घर की धुरी होती है। और उस अगर हम इतिहास में अगर हम जाते हैं और अगर हम बात करते हैं रामायण की, तो रामायण में क्या आपको क्या लगता है, जब पितृसत्तात्मक समाज की बात करते हैं तो उसमें क्या है कि पिता की सत्ता होती है। रामायण में एक पात्र है जो पूरी सृष्टि पे जो अगर पूरी नारी जाति की अगर सशक्तिकरण की अगर हम बात कहते हैं तो वो सब पे भारी पड़ता है। अगर आपने रामायण की अगर आप बात करेंगे तो राम को वनवास होता है, तो राम को वनवास कौन देता है, उसके पिता या उसकी माता? अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं पिता और माता में से, तो यह जो नारी के जो रूप को अगर हम देखते हैं तो पूरी रामायण जो है वो एक मूल तथ्य पर जो टिकी हुई है वह है केकई। केकई ने राम को वनवास दिया या राजा दशरथ ने दिया? यानी कि कब कौन कहता है कि जो है महिलाओं की जो है महिलाएं जो है राजनीतिक नहीं होती हैं, या राजनीति में महिलाएं बहुत कम होती हैं? सदियों से महिलाएं राजनीति में रही हैं। दीदा का नाम सुना है आपने? अगर हम बात करते हैं ऐतिहासिक पात्रों की, तो छत्रपति शिवाजी की माँ जीजाबाई जो है उन्होंने क्या है, जीजाबाई ने मूल रूप से किसका जो है वो किया, जीजाबाई शिवाजी को बनाती हैं, और उसके बाद जो है शिवाजी बनते हैं छत्रपति, और छत्रपति शिवाजी की जो है पूरी कहानी टिकी होती है जीजाबाई के ऊपर। आदर्श नारी का मतलब जो है वो साड़ी में लिपटी हुई, पलकें झुकाई हुई, और जो है पूरे साजो सामान से सजी हुई नारी नहीं है। नारी का वास्तविक रूप उसका आंतरिक रूप है। आज भी जब हमारे भारतीय समाज में जब लड़की के लिए लड़का देखा जाता है, कोई भी पिता अपनी बेटी की शादी अपनी पत्नी से पूछे बिना नहीं करता है, और हम कहते हैं कि नारी जो है वह एक दयनीय स्थिति में है। भारतीय समाज में नारी को आदर नहीं दिया जाता है, वो शोषित है और जो है पीड़ित है। सदियों से वो आबला जीवन हाय तुम्हारी यही कहानी, आंचल में दूध और आंखों में पानी, क्या यही कहानी रही है? अगर हम भारतीय चिंतन की बात करते हैं, अपाला, गार्गी, मैत्रेयी और उसके बाद से आप आइए मीराबाई, सहजोबाई से होते हुए जब आधुनिक युग में जब आप प्रवेश करेंगे तो आप देखेंगे कि किस प्रकार से नारी जो है भारतीय समाज का विकास कर रही है। एक ही तथ्य को हम उसमें नहीं देख सकते हैं। अगर नारी का जो सबसे वंदनीय रूप माना जाता है, वह क्यों माँ का माना जाता है? अगर हम माँ के दर्जे से अगर हम परे होते हैं, अगर माँ के दर्जे से अगर हम बाहर निकलते हैं, तो वह बहन के रूप में, एक बेटी के रूप में और एक पत्नी के रूप में किस प्रकार से पूरे समाज को अगर हम देख रहे हैं तो नारी ही तो संचालित कर रही है। अगर हम गोदान को आप उठा लीजिए, गोदान में जहाँ होरी की स्थिति है वहीं धनिया की स्थिति भी उतनी ही मजबूत है। कहीं भी धनिया जो है वो कमतर नजर नहीं आ रही है। अगर हम देखते हैं कि जब गोदान में जब पुलिस वाले जो आते हैं और होरी के का जो भाई है हीरा, उसके घर के ऊपर जब जो है उनको जो है पुलिस का जो केस होता है तो होरी कहता कि मर्जाद की बात है। क्या बिगाड़ के सिलिया पात्र है। उसी उपन्यास में जो है झुनिया एक पात्र है और उस समय क्या कहती है, विद्रोह करती हुई सिलिया कहती है कि तुम रात के अंधेरे में तो मेरे साथ सो सकते हो, लेकिन दिन के उजाले में तथा दिन के उजाले में मैं तुम्हारी कुछ नहीं हूँ। वो विद्रोह कर रही है। आप अगर देखते हैं चैमीन उपन्यास की करुतम्मा को, वो झटपटा रही है। वो जो है अंत तक इस बात को स्वीकार नहीं करती है कि वह किसी की जो है प्रेमिका रह चुकी है और जो है अपने पति के प्रति पूर्णतः समर्पित होने की कोशिश करने के बावजूद भी उसे तानों का सामना करना पड़ता है। और एक यौन सुचिता की अवधारणा जो नारी के लिए बना दी गई है, क्या वह क्राइटेरिया है कि आपको जो है इसी तरीके की नारी को पवित्र माना जाएगा? भारतीय समाज में यौन सुचिता की अवधारणा जो है वो क्यों लड़कियों के दिमाग में बिठा दी जाती है? क्यों हमारे समाज में जो है इस चीज़ का को लेकर इतना ज़्यादा द्वंद्व है कि लड़की जो है वो शादी से पहले किस तरीके से रहेगी, उसका जीवन कैसा होगा, और वह जैसे ही उसकी जब शादी होगी तो उसके बाद उसका जीवन क्या होगा। और उसके बाद आज हम देख रहे हैं कि आज हर माता पिता अपनी बेटी को पढ़ा लिखा रहे हैं और जब वो आत्मनिर्भर बन गई है तो आत्मनिर्भर होने के बाद बहुत से मुद्दे निकल के सामने आते हैं। 55 खंबे लाल दीवारें की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो उसमें हम देखते हैं कि एक ऐसी बेटी जो अपने परिवार को चला रही है, जो अपने छोटे बहन भाइयों को पढ़ा रही है और उसकी खुद की जो है वो शादी नहीं हुई है, और खुद की शादी न होने के कारण क्या हैं? आर्थिक रूप से अर्थ पर जब किसी भी वर्ग का जब अर्थ पर जो है अधिकार होता है तो उसी का वर्चस्व भी होता है। 70% घरों में आज भी जो है अर्थ पर, चाहे वो स्त्री कमा रही हो या पुरुष कमा रहा हो, खर्च जो है जिसके बारे में कहा जाता है कि वास्तव में जो है खर्च पुरुष करता है और जो है पुरुष की ही जो है मूल रूप से जो है सत्ता होती है, वह अपने हिसाब से खर्च करता है। तो यहाँ पे एक भारतीय चिंतन में अगर हम देखते हैं तो अगर आप इतिहास को उठा लीजिए, सामाजिक उपन्यासों को उठाइए या सामाजिक मध्यकाल की अगर बात कीजिए, रीतिकाल की बात कीजिए और आधुनिक काल में भी हम देखते हैं कि ज़्यादातर अर्थ जो है वो नारी की सहमति से ही खर्च किया जाता है। यानी कि भारतीय समाज में जहां हम सकारात्मकता, नारी के सकारात्मक और नकारात्मक दोनों ही पक्षों की जब चर्चा करते हैं तो भारतीय नारी भी जो है जिस दिन अपने संपूर्ण प्राण वेग से जाग सके उस दिन उसकी गति को रोकना बहुत मुश्किल है। यानी कि जैसे ही नारी बाहर निकलती है, किससे? अपनी ही परतंत्रता से, अपनी ही चीज़ों से जब वो बाहर निकलती है, अपनी कौन सी चीज़ें, यानी कि अपना जो उसने जामा बनाया हुआ है, अपनी जो चीज़ों की जिस उसने स्थापना की हुई है, एक दायरा जो, यानी कि वो सृजनशील है या नहीं है, वो सृजना कर रही है या नहीं है। क्या उसने अपने आप को सिर्फ देह मात्र समझा हुआ है? क्या वह सिर्फ अपने आप को जो है एक देह के रूप में देख रही है और उसी को अपना सर्वस्व समझ रही है? अगर ऐसा नहीं है तो वास्तव में जो है नारी अपना विकास कर रही है, नारी जो है वो प्रगति कर रही है। किस चीज़ में? अपनी रचनात्मकता में। कहानी, कविता, लेखन, कौन सी ऐसी जगह है जहाँ पर आज नारी नहीं पहुंची है, चाहे वह को किसी भी प्रकार का कोई भी क्षेत्र हो। अगर हम बात करते हैं मनु भंडारी की जो कहानी है, मनु भंडारी ने त्रिशंकु कहानी लिखी, एक आधुनिक माँ की कहानी। अगर हम बात करते हैं अमृता प्रीतम के उपन्यास पिंजर की, तो नारी क्या कहती है, जैसे ही कोई लड़की बाहर जाती है तो मुझे लगता है कि हिंदुस्तान की हर लड़की बाहर जा रही है, हिंदुस्तान की हर बेटी जो है वो बाहर जा रही है। और इसी प्रकार से जो है सारा जो संपूर्ण जो भारतीय समाज है वह नारी के अलग अलग रूपों से जो है वह बंधा हुआ है। और उन्हीं बंधनों में से जब स्त्री के विकास की चरम उसके मातृत्व में हो सकती है, परंतु यह कर्तव्य उसे मानसिक तथा शारीरिक शक्तियों को तोलकर स्वेच्छा से स्वीकार करना चाहिए। कोई लड़की माँ बनना चाहती है या नहीं बनना चाहती है, कोई लड़की शादी करना चाहती है या नहीं करना चाहती है, यह उसकी इच्छा पर निर्भर होना चाहिए। भारतीय समाज में अगर हम बात करते हैं तो ये जरूरी नहीं कि आधुनिक काल में, प्राचीन काल में भी अगर महादेवी वर्मा को लीजिए, उसके बाद बहुत सी पढ़ी लिखी महिलाएं हुई हैं जिन्होंने जो है अपनी स्वेच्छा से शादी नहीं की है। और शादी ही सब कुछ नहीं है। आज जब हम मानते हैं कि लड़की के बारे में ये कहा जाता है कि भाई लड़की का जो है ससुर जो उसका मूल रूप से उसका जो परिवार है वो कौन सा है, मूल रूप से उसका जो घर है वह शादी के बाद जो उसका घर होता है वही उसका मूल रूप से उसका घर होता है। लेकिन आज चीज़ें बदल रही हैं। आज ऐसी चीज़ें नहीं है कि माता पिता जो है वो वारिस के लिए उनको एक बेटे की जो है जो तमन्ना जो है वो रहती ही रहती है। आज समय बदला है, परिवेश बदला है, चीज़ें बदली हैं और उसके प्रति लोगों की धारणाएं भी बदली हैं। तो लोग जो है वो आज जो है जहाँ पहले एक बच्चों की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो अगर बच्चा यानी कि संतान आखिर क्या है, इसमें अगर रूढ़िवादिता को तोड़ते हुए नए भारत की जब हम चर्चा करते हैं तो ऐसे बहुत से हजारों उदाहरण भरे पड़े हैं जहाँ पर लिंग का भेद मिटता सा नजर आता है। भारतीय जो परंपरा है, भारतीय जो चिंतन है, वह सदैव से नारी को लेकर जो है वो एक संवेदनशील भाव को लिए हुए है। हम एक ये तो हम बार बार हम ये बोल देते हैं कि बार बार हम कहते हैं ये इस दोहे की तो हम खूब चर्चा करते हैं कि ढोल गवार शूद्र नारी ये सब ताड़न के अधिकारी। आज जो है वो नारी शोषित हो रही है। आज जो है घरों में, परिवार में यौन हिंसा, यौन शोषण, घरेलू हिंसा, ऐसे बहुत से मुद्दों को जो है हम लोग सामने रखते हैं। लेकिन उसके पीछे की जो गहराई है अगर हम उसे देखेंगे तो हमें ये चीज़ समझ में आ जाएगी कि नारी जो है वो दयनीय नहीं, वो जो है असाधारण उसकी जो प्रतिभा है वह उसके कारण सदैव से जो है वह काफ़ी जो है प्रगतिशील मानसिकता की वजह से वह काफ़ी अग्रसर रही है। आज जो हमारा भारतीय समाज है उसमें अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं मूल्यों की, तो सबसे पहले अगर मूल्यों पे अगर हम आते हैं तो पितृसत्तात्मक जो मूल्य हैं उनकी अगर हम चर्चा करेंगे तो उसमें क्या है कि पिता की सत्ता है और पिता के का यानी कि पुरुष जो है उसका वर्चस्ववादी माना गया है। उसके बाद अगर हम आते हैं दूसरी जो समस्या है देह की समस्या की, जिसकी हम चर्चा करते रहते हैं, तो भारतीय समाज में जो है वो देह को किस रूप में देखा जाता है कि आपने जो है मात्र हम देह से ही लिपटे रहते हैं या हम उससे बाहर भी आते हैं। और जब हम बाहर आते हैं तो हम पढ़ते हैं क्या, किस तरह के उपन्यासों की अगर मैं चर्चा करना चाहूँगी तो कठगुलाब उपन्यास की जो नायिका है वो स्पष्ट रूप से जो है वो बताती हुई नजर आती है कि जिस दिन उसने ठाना कि वह जो है वह अपनी बहन के घर को छोड़ देगी और वह खुद आत्मनिर्भर होकर अपना जीवन यापन करेगी, तो उसके बाद जो है वह उन चीज़ों से बाहर निकलती है और एक सशक्त महिला के रूप में सामने खड़ी होती है। इसी प्रकार से अगर हम बात करते हैं प्रेमचंद के की कहानियों में से अगर हम कफन कहानी की बात करते हैं तो कफन कहानी में एक महिला त्राही त्राही कर रही है, वो गर्भ से किसी बच्चे को जन्म दे रही है और बाहर उसके जो पति और जो पुत्र है वो जो है आलू खाने की फिराक में है। इसी प्रकार से क्या है कि एक वेदना उसमें दिखाई गई है कि एक जो है किस हद तक जो है भारतीय समाज की में जो एक चीज़ को उठाया गया है कि आज उसमें अगर हम बात करते हैं उसको तरह तरह से उसको मूल्यांकित किया गया है, तरह तरह के आलोचकों ने उसकी आलोचनाएं दी हैं, लेकिन कहीं एक ऐसा पक्ष तो नहीं है कि आज भी हमारे समाज में जो है एक ऐसा पर्दा है जिसे हम किसका पर्दा कहते हैं, लोक लाज का पर्दा। यानी कि ये पर्दा जो है पर्दा प्रथा वाला पर्दा नहीं है, एक मर्यादा का पर्दा होता है। और भारतीय समाज में जब देखेंगे कि तो प्राचीन काल में क्या था कि संयुक्त परिवार होते थे। संयुक्त परिवारों में जो है जब परिवार बड़े होते थे तो उसकी मूल रूप से उसका मुखिया कौन होता था? उसका यानी कि मुखिया जो है वो सबसे बड़ी महिला जो वो होती है वही उसकी मुखिया मूल रूप से उसकी मुखिया होती थी। भारतीय समाज में अगर हम देखते हैं तो हमें ये चीज़ें बहुत सी चीज़ें हमारे जो है हमारे पट को खोलती हुई नज़र आती हैं। आप इसमें सबसे पहले अगर मैं पद्मा सचदेव का उदाहरण इसमें मैं देना चाहूँगी कि पद्मा सचदेव लिखती है कि जब मैं छोटी सी थी तो मेरे घर में क्या है कि मेरे पिता की मृत्यु हो जाती है। वो जम्मू कश्मीर से थी और उस समय क्या है कि उनके पापा जो है वो शिक्षक थे और आतंकवादियों के हमले से जो है उनके पिताजी हैं जो है वो मारे जाते हैं। 23 साल की उम्र में जो उनकी मम्मी जो माँ है वो विधवा हो जाती है और उनके जो परिवार है उसमें जो है दूर के यानी कि दूर के मामा है चाचा के एक रिश्तेदार हैं जो उनके घर में आते हैं। तो उनके घर में आते हैं जब हमारे समाज में एक लड़की जो है जब विधवा हो जाती है वो पूरे परिवार के लिए पूरे समाज के लिए जो है उसके मन में जो भाव जो उत्पन्न होता है वह सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो ये भाव उत्पन्न नहीं होता है कि उसको किस तरीके से उसको उसकी देह का उपयोग करना है। एक भाव होता है सहानुभूति का, दया का। आप देखिए कि जिस बच्चे की माँ नहीं होती है आप निकल के देखिए हर बच्चे की जो है इंसान के परिवार के हर सदस्य की और यहाँ तक कि अगर आप गांव में देखेंगे तो गांव के हर व्यक्ति की सहानुभूति उनके साथ हो जाती है कि बेचारे की माँ या पिता नहीं है। उसके प्रति जो मन में जो भाव उत्पन्न होता है वह सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो है भारतीयता का ही प्रतीक है। और उसमें सबसे ज़्यादा संवेदनशील कौन होता है? अगर हम देखेंगे तो उसमें सबसे ज़्यादा संवेदनशील महिलाएं ही होती हैं और वह जो पता भी नहीं चलता है और उसमें क्या होता है पता भी नहीं चलता है और पूरा जो है बच्चा जो है उसकी पूरी परवरिश हो जाती है और सब लोग मिलकर उसकी परवरिश करते हैं। इसी तरीके की जो कहानी है अगर आप प्रेमचंद की कहानी है एक जिसमें क्या है ईदगाह कहानी है, एक छोटे बच्चे की कहानी उसमें है, छोटे बच्चे के मनोभाव को उसमें दिखाया है और उसकी दादी जो है उसको जो है पाल पोस रही है और पालने पोसने से दादी के हाथ जल रहे हैं। यानी कि ये कहानी जो है सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक बच्चे की कहानी नहीं है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक मार्मिकता की कहानी नहीं है, इसमें एक पात्र है दादी। उस पात्र को आप देखिए कि कैसे वो जो है बूढ़ी है और उसके जो है चिमटा नहीं है रोटी बनाने के लिए, हाथ जल रहे हैं और वो रोटी बना रही है और वो खिला रही है। अगर हम बात करते हैं महाश्वेता देवी के उपन्यास की 1000 चौरसिये की माँ, वो जो माँ है वो सिर्फ एक उसके बेटे की कहानी नहीं है, वो सिर्फ जो है उन युवा लड़कों की कहानी नहीं है जो यह साबित कर रहे हैं कि किस तरीके से जो है नक्सलवाद बढ़ रहा है, किस तरीके से एक बच्चे की जो है सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक बच्चे की बॉडी यानी कि 1000 चौरसिये की माँ, उस माँ की संवेदना को दिखाया है। वहाँ पे नायक जो है वह उसका बेटा नहीं है, वहाँ पर नायक माँ है कि एक माँ कैसे नहीं समझ पाती है अपने बच्चे को, किस तरीके से वो परवरिश देती है, किस प्रकार से वो नौकरी करती है और उसके बाद उसकी क्या हालत होती है। यानी कि पूरा जो उपन्यास है वो एक माँ की भावनाओं पे टिका हुआ है, एक स्त्री की जो है स्त्री के वजूद पे, एक स्त्री की अस्मिता पे टिका हुआ है। अगर हम बात करते हैं हमारे अगर अभी मैं बात कर रही थी पद्मा सचदेव की, जो भी बात बीच में रही कि पद्मा सचदेव की माँ विधवा हो जाती है 22 साल की उम्र में और उनके दूर के एक रिलेटिव हैं जो उनसे मिलने के लिए आते हैं और वो जो है जैसे ही वो चले जाते हैं तो वो उनकी हेल्प करते हैं, मदद करते हैं। और मदद को किस तरीके से समाज में देखा जाता है कि उसकी माँ के साथ उसका नाम जोड़ दिया जाता है। छोटी सी बच्ची सुन रही है, वो बोल तो नहीं पाती है लेकिन एक पत्र लिखकर कहती है आप हमारे घर मत आया कीजिए, आपके आने से जो है मेरी माँ के चर्चे किए जाते हैं। एक ऐसा संवेदनात्मक रूप समाज में आता है कि भारतीय समाज में जो है किस तरीके से जो है कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें जो शब्दों में बयान नहीं होती हैं, एक ऐसी पीड़ाओं का भी जो है बखान हमें मिलता है लोकगीतों के माध्यम से। लोकगीतों में कौन कौन से गीत होते हैं? जब एक लड़की की जो है शादी होती है उस समय के गीत अलग होते हैं, जब एक लड़की जो है विदा होती है उस समय के गीत अलग होते हैं, जब किसी लड़की के दरवाजे पर उसके भाई आते हैं तो उस समय के गीत जो है वो अलग होते हैं। यानी कि भारतीय जो समाज है उसमें नारी का जो रूप हमें देखने को मिलता है वह बहुरंगी रूप है। वह जो है एक आदर्शात्मक के साथ साथ एक प्रयोगात्मक जिसे हम कहेंगे, एक सशक्तिकरण में, जहाँ सशक्तिकरण की जब हम बात करेंगे तो सशक्तिकरण का मतलब सिर्फ नौकरी करना नहीं है। सशक्तिकरण का मतलब कहीं पर बोलना भी नहीं है। सशक्तिकरण का मतलब जो है वो किसी के बारे में छिटाकसी करना भी नहीं है और किसी को बड़ा और छोटा दिखाना भी नहीं है। सशक्तिकरण का मतलब क्या है? सशक्तिकरण का मतलब ही यही है कि एक नारी वास्तव में मानसिक रूप से कितनी मजबूत है और मानसिक मजबूती के आधार पर वो जो फैसले लेती है उससे समाज का किस प्रकार से विकास होता है। यानी कि भारतीय समाज के विकास में मूल धुरी जो है वह सिर्फ और सिर्फ नारी ही है। नारी की जो स्थिति है क्या है कि अनेक बार नारी की बाह्य परिस्थितियों के परिवर्तन की ओर स्थान न देकर हम क्या करते हैं कि हम जो है उसकी बाह्य जो सफलताएं हैं उनकी तरफ हम ध्यान देते हैं, लेकिन वास्तव में जो है चीज़ें शुरू होती हैं अंतर से यानी कि जब अंदर से जब चीज़ें बाहर निकलती हैं और जैसे ही वो चीज़ें बाहर निकल के समाज को एक अक्ष प्रदान करती हैं, तब जाकर जो है वो सशक्तिकरण होता है। कपड़ों की जो है स्वतंत्रता, ये कोई स्वतंत्रता नहीं है, ये एक इच्छा है कि हम किस तरीके से हमें रहना पसंद है, किस तरीके से हम रहना चाहती हैं। ये सिर्फ अभिव्यक्ति है। तीज त्योहारों की जब हम बात करते हैं तो तीज त्योहारों पे क्या है, वो कैसे उसे अच्छा महसूस होता है। अगर आप जो है करवा का व्रत कहानी की अगर मैं बात करना चाहूँगी यहाँ पे, क्योंकि यह कहानी नारी की स्वतंत्रता से जुड़ी हुई है। करवा के व्रत कहानी में क्या है? करवा के व्रत कहानी में बताया गया है कि एक लड़की की शादी होती है और वह ससुराल आती है और उसके पति को यह समझाया जाता है कि जब कोई महिला 5 चीज़ें मांगे तो उसे 2 चीज़ें देनी चाहिए, नहीं तो वह सिर पर बैठ जाती है। और उसको इसके लिए क्या है कि आप उसके पति को समझाते हैं उसके दोस्त। करवा के व्रत में यही बताया है कि आपको जो है जब कोई महिला कुछ भी मंगाए तो उसे कम लेके आओ, वो व्रत रखती है। और उसके पति जो है वो समाज की जो क्या कहेंगे, समाज के जो मान मर्यादाएं या समाज की जो चीज़ें बनी हुई हैं उसी के आधार पे क्या करते हैं कि उतनी पत्नी जहाँ सारा सामान मंगवाती है करवा के व्रत के लिए, तो वो थोड़ा थोड़ा सामान लेके आते हैं। वह सारे दिन भूखी रहती है और फिर देखती है कि किस तरीके से उसके पति को ज़बरदस्ती जो है सब कुछ करने के बावजूद उसे डांटा जाता है, क्योंकि उसे बताया जाता है कि महिलाओं को जो इस तरीके से रखना चाहिए। और फिर जो है वो व्रत जब वो खोलती है तो वो कहती है कि मैंने व्रत नहीं किया है। तो कहते हैं क्या तुमने व्रत नहीं किया, यानी कि तुम जो है तुम्हें मेरी लंबी उम्र की तुमने कामना नहीं की? बोले कि नहीं। मुझे क्या कहते हैं कि जब करवा चौथ का व्रत जब किया जाता है तो कहते हैं कि 7 जन्म तक यही पति मिलेगा, और जब इस जन्म में आप मुझे मिले हैं और आप जो है इस तरीके का मेरे साथ व्यवहार कर रहे हैं तो मुझे आप 7 जन्म तक नहीं चाहिए। और जब उसे ये बात पता चलती है कि इसने जो है व्रत रखा ही नहीं मेरे लिए, तो उसका जो है ईगो और उसका जो मनोबल है और उसकी सारी चीज़ें एकदम से पलट जाती हैं, यानी कि बदल जाती हैं। यानी कि करवा के व्रत कहानी के माध्यम से लेखक ने ये बताया है कि वास्तव में नारी सशक्तिकरण क्या होता है। जो है वास्तव में नारी जो है वह किसी चीज़ के यानी कि वास्तव में वह चाह क्या रही है, और वास्तव में सशक्तिकरण उसका विरोध करना, उस व्रत का विरोध करना कि अगर सिंदूर लगाने से, चूड़ियाँ पहनने से, मंगलसूत्र पहनने से अगर पति की लंबी उम्र होती है तो मुझे नहीं चाहिए, ऐसा पति ही नहीं चाहिए मुझे। यानी कि एक भाव की बात होती है। हम अपनी इच्छा से जैसे रहना चाहते हैं वैसे हम रहे, लेकिन किसी की थोपी हुई चीज़ें हम नहीं अपनाएंगी। यह नारी सशक्तिकरण का रूप जो आज भारतीय समाज में दिखाई देता है। और भारतीय समाज की जो पूरी जो परंपराएं हैं, अगर उनका निर्वाह करने की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो पूरी परंपराओं का निर्वाह कौन कर रहा है? भारतीय समाज में आज भी जो है सारी जो परंपराएं हैं, सारे रीति रिवाज हैं, यानी कि जो पूरी जो सृष्टि है देखा जाए तो वह सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो है अगर नारी के ऊपर ही केंद्रित है। आज जो समाज में जो चीज़ें बदली हैं वो नारी ने अपने अंतर्मन से, अपने अंदर की शक्ति से और अपने मानसिक मजबूती से वो चीज़ें जो है उसने पाई हैं। और इसी के कारण जो है आज हम नारी सशक्तिकरण के मुद्दों पर जब हम बात करते हैं और नारी सशक्तिकरण की जब हम चर्चाएं करते हैं तो बहुत सी चीज़ें निकल कर हमारे सामने आती हैं। और उन्हीं चीज़ों में से जो है एक चीज़ सबसे जो महत्वपूर्ण चीज़ है वह है उसका आत्मविश्वास। और आज नारी जो है वह बुलंदियों को छू रही है, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। आज नारी ने बहुत सी चीज़ों को समझा है, जाना है, और उन चीज़ों को समझने जानने के बाद वह इस निष्कर्ष पर पहुंची है कि अगर हमारा भला होना है, अगर बदलाव होना है, तो वह बदलाव सबसे पहले खुद से शुरू होता है। आज भारतीय नारी तोड़ने में नहीं, जोड़ने में विश्वास रखती है, और वह तब तक निभाने की कोशिश करती है जब तक जो है उसका स्वयं का वजूद बचा रहे। वह अपने आत्मसम्मान को और अपने स्वाभिमान को गिरवी रखकर जो है वो आगे नहीं बढ़ना चाहती है। वह अपने स्वाभिमान के साथ जीना चाहती है, वह अपने जो है अपने वजूद को बनाना चाहती है, और इसी प्रकार से जो है आज नारी जो है वो एक सीढ़ी दर सीढ़ी आगे बढ़ती जा रही है। भले ही बहुत ऊंचा है आसमान, भले ही बहुत ऊंचा है आसमान, भले ही बहुत दूर है चीज़ें, भले ही पूरी सृष्टि का सिर्फ 1/3 हिस्सा हमारे नाम है, फिर भी बुलंदी का एक हमारे मन में जज्बा और अरमान है। इतना सा था आज का ये व्याख्यान।